Thank you for joining Dr. James, Rini, and I, the Curiosity Conduit, Dana Ortiz, for a look behind the curtain of letting destiny deliver. Dr. Rini is a practicing psychotherapist for the last 46 years, and I am a retired law enforcement officer with 26 years experience, and am now a psychology student. Please feel free to add comments or ask questions below. Make sure to subscribe and like. Dr. Rini or I will be happy to answer any questions you have. So today we will be discussing mindsets and how they can limit you or open doors. This conversation may lead to feelings of inspiration and curiosity, and it could also create some inner movement. That's all welcome. Life will reveal your destiny through all opportunities you keep yourself available for. So allow yourself to stay open, and let's see what destiny delivers. Okay, Dr. Rini, so we're talking about mindsets. What is a mindset?
Mindset is what the words imply, that your mind is set on something and it can only see what it's set on. Like, back in the days when you had a typewriter, or I guess even computer, you set the margins as to how far, you can print, and then you got to start a new line. So a mindset, like, I had a colleague and he had a no mindset. So whatever you ask him, he'd always say no. Other mindsets are, you're weak if, as a man, you show feelings. It's those things that we say to ourselves that we then believe. Now, some mindsets are unfortunately limiting. They create blind spots. Because I believe a certain thing, like I like to say, if you don't believe in God, you don't see him anywhere. If you believe in God, you see him everywhere. So the mindset in those cases determine what you see and what you don't see. And unfortunately, we all have mindsets that we've acquired and taken as truth, and they're not. And we're not aware of the mindsets because they're so automatic.
So what's an example of one?
Other than the ones I've given you.
Yes, that's more, that's relatable every day that you hear often.
I shouldn't have to tell him, you should know.
Mm.
Mind reading. The mindset that you should be able to read my mind. And that sounds crazy, but there's a lot of people that believe that he should know. He should be able to read my mind.
Okay, that's good.
Or I shouldn't have to tell him. And if you have to tell them, if they don't know, then that mindset is dysfunctional because...
And then they hold it against them.
Right. Then there's the resentment, and then that person reacts to that, and you have a domino effect.
Excellent example. I like that. We're going to read a quote here. It says, Jung once said, "Where the many are, there is security. What the many believe must, of course, be true. What the many want must be worth striving for, and therefore good." What do you think you meant when saying this?
Well, let me ask you this first. What do you think he meant?
My mindset says I can't answer that.
Very good. All right. Well, what Jung is really talking about here is the leveling down process. Because many people believe it must be true. Many people believe the earth was flat. That didn't make it true. Where the many are, there is security. That's, he's being very sarcastic in this because it's a leveling down process. What the many think is worth striving for must therefore, be worth striving for and good, which is not the case.
So I really see where he's showing in a society where mindsets can be created as well.
Right, through the collective, through what the ending. And his whole process of mental health, which we call letting destiny deliver here, is individuation. That is becoming your own person. Doesn't mean that you don't fit into society and you can't belong to it and fit in, but not at the expense of self.
Very good.
And these things are usually at the expense of self, because then you're just following the herd.
Yes, that's why you must be the shiny, glittery one, the sparkly one in the group.
True.
Okay, so the next quote says, and this is from your book, says, "There is the need to develop a positive myth about the meaning of life, as well as life after death, so that it puts both into a spiritual context." I do really like that, and I also agree with that. By doing these things, we are empowered to discern what is important and meaningful from that which is empty and hollow, and thereby develop a transcendent consciousness. So in really developing that positive myth about the meaning of life and life after death to be able to develop that transcendent consciousness. What is the transcendent level of consciousness? What is that? What is meant by that?
Well, you certainly are not a person who thinks where the many are, there is security, or what the many believe must be true. So you transcend that. You're able to rise above that and recognize that there is something more than that. Okay. We have the ability to have a self-reflective consciousness. And because of that, we can be creative beings. One of the things that is unique to humans is they create stories. We've had theater since day one. People, have to act and play roles and teach things through that. So the transcendent level of consciousness allows you to become more than you would be if you just follow what the many think and what the many believe and what the many do.
When you say more, it's different for each person.
Absolutely. It's all individual.
Yeah.
See, one of the things that supposedly makes a hero is their willingness to sacrifice things for themselves in order to do for others. So in developing a positive myth about the meaning of life, it then drives your behavior. If I want to find a cure for cancer because somebody in my family died of cancer, it drives my behavior. My behavior in terms of academics, my behavior in terms of how much time I'm willing to put into it, what I'm willing to sacrifice to do it, how much frustration I'm willing to put up with, and what adversity I'm willing to overcome. Because life isn't simple and smooth and easy. So when we have that myth that I'm going to cure cancer, it allows me to overcome, to transcend all those things that otherwise may make me want to quit. Now, as far as life after death, that's a big one because obviously, if you believe that what you do in life determines what happens to you after death, that's a myth. Not that it's not true, but we can't prove that. Okay, again, a myth is a way to bridge the subjective and the objective.
The one thing that I had been thinking about over this past week as people are developing their myth or have it, because each individual is different, it very well may be different. And they have to see what aligns with them and what feels right for them.
Well, I like that. What resonates with you? Because there's lots of religions and they all have different things. I mean, with Buddhism, there's reincarnation.
And it's okay for whomever.
I tend to buy into that one. It's like you see so many people suffering in the world, and nobody can say it that way. I don't want people to suffer, obviously, and I feel very bad for people that have certain situations. But I guess the way I've come to rationalize that in my mind is that's kind of karma. That's the Buddhism coming through. You past lives, you did things that has earned you this spot, be it good, bad, or indifferent. So that's kind of a myth of what happens life after death. I think last week I mentioned that my father became a completely different person after my mother came. And so my myth is that they're back together again, but they have a much better relationship because he's a completely different person.
Yeah, I know. That was sweet. That was very sweet.
Well, I wasn't trying to be sweet.
Well, I just said it was. I wasn't
Because here's the mindset. Throwing in mindsets with that. Because he was kind of an awful person to me and kind of to her unintentionally. I could have held that against him. Well, screw you. It's kind of late now. She's dead. I mean, and those are mindsets people use. Well, you can't do anything about it. It's too late now. You blew it, as opposed to, hey, it's a good thing she died earlier than him because it's promoted all this growth that he wouldn't have undergone. And now they're together. And so that my myth allows me to put him in a more positive perspective and a more accurate one because he truly became a different person. The other way, I would not accept him as this changed person. It's too late.
So this next quote really ties into, and you've already discussed a little bit about it, but I'm still going to read it. To achieve the transcendent level of consciousness, you must be able to rise above the collective and find a way to develop morally and spiritually on your own. And I really would like you to kind of expand upon that.
It's easy to want to be a part of the collective because we want to belong, we want to fit in, Those are all innate intrinsic behaviors that we have. The problem that comes from only trying to fit into the collective is that you then are neglecting your individuality and the conflict that comes between the two. And that's where morality comes in, is that conflict between the collective and what you as an individual value or believe. I mean, someone can be immoral, they don't have any morals, so for them, they're more important than anything else or the collective, because that's just another way of saying I don't do what I want to do. And developing morally isn't strictly black and white, what's right and what's wrong. Unfortunately, that's not the highest level of morality. It's much more gray, because, it's okay to kill people in war. It's not okay to kill people just for the fun of it, and the collective tells you that, which is not a bad thing. People kill themselves though, and that's not the right thing to do. Right? As a professional, I can't allow people to kill themselves. It's my legal and ethical obligation to stop them from doing that. If not, I get in trouble. Another level, with assisted suicide. See, that's a whole another level of morality. And we put animals to sleep so that they don't suffer. Okay, but with human beings, oh no, we got to keep them alive at all costs. When they don't want to stay alive, if there's no quality of life in a sense. So morality isn't black and white like that. It's like one of the ones they used in school, if your wife is dying and you need a drug, and there's a drug that can save her life, but you can't afford it, should you steal it in order to save her life? Because stealing is wrong.
Yes.
But also letting her die because you can't afford the drug is wrong. So morality isn't, again, black or white. It becomes very gray.
Well, that one's black and white. You go steal. That's in my house.
That's against the law, you see.
Well, somebody's dying.
And with spirituality, again, it's utilizing that transcendent function of the brain that's allowing yourself to see yourself as more than you are. And I don't mean that in an egotistical, I'm bragging, impressive way. Is to realize that the meaning of your life is not an accident, that you're here for a reason, and your job is to figure out what that reason is for.
Yes. Well, it's true. There's purpose for each person who's here.
Because we're born for a reason.
Yes. But not everybody knows that. And I hope by the time they're finished with your boat, they do. If they don't know it yet, they should feel it.
Well, indirectly, the reason they're born is to be capitalists, to make money, acquire things, be the best at everything that you have, and die.
Oh, well, that's what our society.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, there's.
Well, it's definitely a fighting battle from the time you're born, but doesn't mean it's not worth fighting for. And I said this in other episodes, we're literally fighting ourselves for ourselves because of where we're brought up, and here in particular. And it can be done, and I can attest to it.
Well, you say fight. How'd you put it?
Fighting.
Yeah. So I guess I want to use a different word in that case, that we're born, and the way we develop is through resolving the opposites in conflict. So our whole life is a process of resolutions. And as we resolve one thing, then we move on to the next.
Which brings me to the next quote. And this one makes me want to sing. Being whole means being able to be authentic. And being authentic means being able to deal with pain and pleasure effectively. It can't be any other way, because being yourself is going to be both painful and pleasurable. And that is why it is so important to be able to reconcile these opposing forces. How can being authentic and reconciling opposing forces within open doors in lives?
Well, first of all, opposites exist. And if you don't resolve them or reconcile them, they pull you apart. And I think that's why a lot of people resort to suicide, because they are unable to reconcile the opposites. And the pain is too great, and the hope of it being any different is gone. Being authentic, first of all, is not an easy concept, because what is authenticity, first of all? And secondly, we are socialized to behave in socially appropriate ways, which may or may not be authentic. Like, I'll give you this kind of side. When I first started doing this, a lot of people says, well, you can't get angry because you're a therapist. And then in real life, I'm not talking about in session or what have you. Well, of course I can be angry. It doesn't make me untherapist-like.
Non-therapist.
But people believe that because I am such and such a person, like I'll give you another one. My brother was in the hospital and where family was remaining, we were all there for him, and I was acting silly. My older sister said to me, what would your patients say if they saw you right now? And I said, I don't care because I'm not Dr. Rini right now. You see, I was being authentically me. I wasn't in a role. Now, in that role, I try to be authentically me, but in that case, my role was I was a brother. I was there supporting my family and what have you. And it wasn't her trying to level me down any. It was just contrary to her experience that she did work for doctors. And of course, they're in that professional role. But otherwise, it would put me in this position as to, well, do I be myself or do I have to be this professional all the time? And if you pick the wrong choice, it doesn't go away. That's why repression doesn't work. Just because you repress something, it doesn't go away. It'll gnaw at you in different ways. So when you reconcile something, if something's bothering you, let's say, and it's entering your mind all the time, when you reconcile it, you never think about it anymore.
That's true.
People who stop smoking, they think about it at first because it's still in their body, it's still producing urges. Certain point, you stop thinking about it. Certainly as often, you might think about it every now and then. So you can tell when, the difference with repression is you're not reconciling it in order to get it out of your mind. With reconciling it, it goes out of your mind, but that's because you integrated the opposites. Like men and women are different, but they marry, they produce babies, which you can't produce if you didn't reconcile those opposites anyway. But it is going to be painful and pleasurable because we get our feelings hurt. We can have feelings of inadequacy, insecurities. People don't understand, or, we're not acting like everybody else. We're not believing what everybody else believes, the leveling down process. And it takes strength and courage to hold fast to who you are.
And what I really love the most is it can't be any other way because being yourself is going to be both painful and pleasurable. I think that's something that I would take that and like raise that up high amongst all the other quotes that I've said.
Yeah.
Because we as individuals, the collective, just think that, oh, we want to chase and get that pleasure, be happy, and get away from that pain. And you're saying, no, it's going to be both. Like, get that out of your head if that was in your head.
Yeah.
It's going to be both. And then also the whole being your authentic self. I had a question for those who feel like they're not accepted in society when they are their authentic self. What would you suggest to them?
Well, it's a very general question, but I'll answer it this way. There are people who have a symptomatic self, and that's not their true self.
What is that?
A symptomatic self? Well, if I say, well, I'm bipolar, that's not who I am. That's a symptomatic mood.
So the fake self that are you talking
Well, then
about?
they believe it's them because they've been labeled.
Well, they don't know.
Right.
Okay.
So everything they do then is because they're bipolar, because either up or they're down. Well, I'm feeling pain because I'm down right now. I'm feeling pleasure because I'm up, or that kind of stuff. So a lot of people that aren't accepted to a certain extent, it's not because they're being authentic, it's because they're being symptomatic selves. Meaning that, like I'll use this example, since narcissism is such a popular personality.
This is exactly what I was talking about in my head, though. I just didn't say it, but go ahead.
The main problem with narcissistic personality disorders, because you can be one without being disordered, is that it is image at the expense of self. It's what I want people to believe about me and see me, kind of like the Wizard of Oz, he's this scary, loud, powerful being. And when you pull back the curtain, he's just this little wimpy old man. But he doesn't want people to know who he really is because he doesn't like who he really is. In that case, being narcissistic is a symptomatic self because image is more important than who you really are.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where ego gets in the way. And people's egos, that's why it's important to be willing to look at oneself and host things that are hard to hear and maybe see how they fit. And in that way, we grow. I like this expression. I used it with a client yesterday. He goes, "We got to make a T-shirt out of that. Pain serves a therapeutic function because we all want to avoid pain. Not all, but most people. That's why they drink.
I know
Drug.
I know some people that
I know that there is the opposite. It's not healthy though to seek pain. Now, the other thing I want to throw in there about it's going to be both painful and pleasurable is some people don't know how to experience pleasure. Their life is nothing but pain. And they'll tell stories how everything bad just happens to them. And so part of being yourself is to be able to get satisfaction. Okay. If I am pretending to be someone or something, I'm not really going to get satisfaction. I'm pretending to laugh at your joke. I'm not really getting satisfaction because I'm not really laughing. Okay. You're getting the satisfaction of thinking that I think it's funny.
That's what I do your jokes all the time.
I know.
Is it? Is that what happened?
I can see right through you.
But thank you for taking ownership.
I must be my authentic self.
But pain does serve a therapeutic function because people are going to respect you if you are a healthy self and individual. And there's that song, "I Did It My Way."
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and that's kind of that person saying, this conflict between image and self. I did it my way, but yet it wasn't how everybody thought I should do it. But in the end, I'm glad I did it my way because I'm very happy with who I am.
I think it was Frank Sinatra.
Yeah, he did. And music is very much an expression. It's an expressive behavior of the human condition.
It is. It is also something that helps you with pain, intense pain as well.
And absolutely.
Okay, so is there anything else you'd like to add
Is there anything else I'd like to add?
today?
I know.
You know what? What I'll do is I'll start reading and it'll come to you.
Okay.
Kind of like when you get up to go to the restroom at a restaurant or whatever, and then the lady comes, the waitress. Yeah, somebody.
I heard a bathroom just for that.
Yeah, just go so we can get our stuff. Yes, okay. Thank you for joining Dr. Rini and I on this journey behind the curtain of letting destiny deliver. Join us next time as we will discuss pain, pleasure, and fear to offer another part of the transformative path to self-expression and spiritual growth. Remember, questions or comments are welcome below. Now ask yourself, what part of your life might destiny be trying to speak through right now? Keep exploring, stay curious, and remember, destiny isn't something you chase, it's something you allow.
So let me say this. We are definitely making a process available to whoever may want it. And it's a very complex and deep process. And with your help and your understanding, what we're doing is taking it apart so that we can understand the parts.
Mhm.
Okay. And so I would use the analogy here of a jigsaw puzzle. People usually start out with the edge because those pieces are easy to identify because there's a straight edge on them.
I never do.
Yeah. And then they build it from within. But the point is, there is no particular order in which the pieces have to be put together. But once you put all the pieces together, then you see the bigger picture. And this is kind of like the same thing. In order to see the bigger picture, you got to put all the pieces together. And what we're doing here is trying to polish and cut all these pieces so they fit in nice for anyone who may be listening, trying to figure out the puzzle of their life.
I still do recommend what you recommended originally to go through in order, and then you can piece apart, because there is something to this order. There really is. But once they go through once, grabbing any piece over the
Like
time.
when you paint, you put a primer down first.
No.
Well, you're supposed to. I don't mean artistic paint. I mean house paint.
Oh.
Such a rebel. So going through it all the first time.
Yes. In my house, yes.
What'd you say?
Yes, in the house, yes. Okay.
So it's just setting that foundation to build on.
It's good. And it's a great foundation.
Well, it is. And because it's not where the many are and not what the many believe and what the many don't know that it's worth striving for, they don't know it's that good. And that's what we want. We want more people to learn what they don't know that makes a difference in life. all the difference.
Absolutely. With that said, until next time, be well.